last, but yesterday was the funeral of Vice President Cheney. I think he's a significant figure in American history and will be remembered by historians as such. What do you think?
Yeah, I think he will be, but I also wonder whether and how he will be remembered, Hugh, because the truth is that he ended up being surrounded, in his being laid to rest by a bunch of people who, throughout his political career, hated him, lied about him, called him every name in the book, and basically decried him as being the absolute worst in American politics. And then only because of his and his family's break with Donald Trump at the very last, turned and switched their positions on him. And I'm not sure which aspect will be, kind of cemented in the history books. Is it the version of him that was, loving the fact that he was being compared to Darth Vader and things like that? Is it the version of him that, had a certain mindset toward the Middle East that people, will be debating for ages to come? Or is it the version of him that is kind of in the latter stages, where he's just remembered as being, this was someone who was a pivot point of the Republican coalition one way or the other?
I think it'll be because the archetype of serious, sober, very, very smart, with a worldview that is fixed and doesn't much care about polling, is an archetype for which Americans long every now and then. And every now and then we want someone who will do the job seriously without concern for X. Man never touched digital stuff. He had nothing to do with it. And so I'm putting aside his contretemps with Trump and just focusing on the vice presidential years, the year of Secretary of Defense.
Well,
go ahead.
Just to add one more point about that, I think a big point of connection here, too, is to sort of think about how is Don Rumsfeld going to be remembered? And I think that there's a lot of different ways to remember a figure of such significance and controversy and things like that. I think he's a fascinating figure in American political life. But, it's hard to see into the future and say, this is the position that they are going to occupy. These are the people who are going to go back and study both the good decisions they made and the bad and what they're going to come away with. Because I quite honestly, the way that our educational systems are going, I'll be impressed if people can remember that they existed.
Yeah, when President Bush gave his eulogy yesterday, he pointed out that Vice President Cheney had been the only man elected to national office from the Mountain West. I was kind of taken aback by that, but he really is a Western character. Ronald Reagan was California, but sort of Western character. He's a Western character and is an archetype for a long time.
For full shows, live and on demand, it's Salem News Channel.